Hello to everyone, and welcome to the lesson 11 of Tibetan Intermediate Conversation course. And today we're going to continue our previous lesson, which was on the time and time case. We did a individual class on both time and time case and place and the place case, and then today we're going to discuss a little bit about some of the more frequent or some of the more usual usage of some of the word that either refers to a time or refers to a place. So more like preposition that we have spoken. So last class we have encountered some of the preposition. We're going to discuss them again. These will be mostly done on a very surface level, meaning that we will not talk about anything in depth about each of these particles, that is the very word, but we're going to see how each of these words are used and how each of these words can be used in a conversation. So before we move on to our actual lesson, first let us begin with the aphorism for today. So the aphorism says, Mi saho to soya, tam saten to lu. Let me repeat this. Mi saho to soya, tam saten to lu. So what does this mean? It means that even though a person goes under the ground, which means that even though a person dies and his body is buried underground, talks about the person remains on the surface or on the ground, meaning amongst the living. So those who are living. So the understanding, the example is given as those who have died have been buried under the ground. So and those who are living are on the surface, that is sating. So therefore, ni sawo to soya, tam saten to lu, meaning that even though a person dies and he is buried under the ground or dies, if it's a good achievement, then his achievements serve as his legacy. If not, then his demerits are spoken within the people who are living. So this can be also used as an advice to someone, telling them that one should be very careful of what they're doing while they're living, because even though they may or may not face the consequences while living, if things come in light, then after they are dead, those things regarding them will live on though they die. And that's also same with the good things. If they have done something good, then even though people die, their legacy, their achievements are shared or are studied by the new generation, and it lives generations. Okay, so with this, let us begin our lesson today. This particular lesson, in this particular lesson, we will talk about a little bit of the prepositions that we have said. It's not going to be an extensive lesson, so it will be relatively easier than many of the lessons that we did. So the first one is tukub kitsik, which means words of time. Tukub means time or duration of time. Tik is words. In Tibetan language, we must understand that the building block or the core, in the core there are two types of letter. One is the vowel, one is the consonant. And then when you combine the consonant and vowel, or what you get is you get name. And then when you combine different name, it becomes word. And then when you combine different words and name, you get statements. So at the core, we have higi letter, which are divided as vowels and consonant. The consonant itself is divided into different groups. And then surrounding the consonant, there is the combination of vowels and consonant, which is known as the name. And then names come together to form words, and then which is known as tik. And then words and names, ming, tik, comes together and form jeba or statements. So, so these are all words. So, and these are all preposition. And here it's a word, but it is a specific type of word. What does it do? It functions to show a particular time. So these are words of time, meaning that these shows time. Specific duration of day we have already discussed. Morning is called kanto or shokwa. Then we have ninghung, which means noon. Then we have ningyap, which means afternoon. Then we have chitro, which means evening. Then we have te, which means night. So these are the usual division of a day, of particular time during a day. So here we are going to learn more about defining an unspecified time rather than saying morning or evening. It's about before this or after this. So the first word we have is hun. Hun is a word that means before a certain time, before a certain period. Je, which means after a certain time, after a certain period. Ne sung, which means onwards a certain time, onwards a certain period. Temata, which means immediately after that. So it means that immediately after something happens. Temata. And then kap, which means while or during a certain time or certain period. So the duration will differ depending on which time period we're using it. Not for Huan and Jie is a different case, but duration for a cup will change depending on the particular period. If we are saying longa cup, which means during the time of studying for 5 years. If we say cup, that means during breakfast. So you see that depending on the particular noun that represents a time duration or a statement that represents a time duration, cup can either be few hours or it could be few thousand years to a few 100,000 years. So cup will depend on the name that represents the particular time. For example, if we say Nana Lope cup. So here the duration is a specific time when someone is returning to their home. Nala Lope cup. When returning home. While returning home. So it may be or if one is particularly stating a specific incident after that, then it's a singular moment. Then Lochi Lopcha La Yue Cup. When someone was at school. So the duration would be the duration that they were at school. So as we can see that the duration depends on this particular on this particular description of the time. It could either be few seconds to a few years to a few hundred years to a few 100,000 years, depending on the particular description of the time. So Kungru, which refers to dinosaurs, it says that when dinosaurs was there, it means that it was a time period when dinosaurs were there. So Kungru. So you can see that the time period will vary depending on the time that is being described. So kab is a particular preposition that will vary in the duration, whereas when erje is an indefinite time until stated before or after a particular time. Nesung is an indefinite time onwards, a time that has been defined. Temata is the only time that is definite here, meaning that the very time, the very moment when something has finished, something has been done, and something has been completed. So the first one, hun, ngani sanglo maju hun la doje den la dozi yue. Let me repeat this again. Ngani sanglo maju hun la doje den la dozi yue. So what does this mean? It means that before the end of the next year, I'm planning to go to Bodh Gaya. So this is a time frame that is before the end of next year, meaning that it could be any day from today to the end of the next year. So we see that it is an indefinite time. So anytime. The only thing we know that this time period will be before the end of the next year. So ngani sanglo maju hun la doje den la dozi yue. Hun is used in this manner, where you state it after a particular limit that you have set. For example, you can say that labda matro kon la nang la male kon la or ngun la ngang male ngun la or duntra je mama le ngun la. In this case, we already set a time where it will be done. And now all the time duration between these two is something that comes under hun. Ngani sanglo maju. Sanglo means next year. Sangyin, next year. Sanglo, next year. Ngani sanglo maju hun la doje den la dozi yue. Okay, now the second one, usage of je. Nang la lep je, nang le che gyuyin. Nang la lep je, nang le che gyuyin. It means after reaching home. So it's a duration that has not, that it's a duration in the future that has not been reached. So it says that something will begin after this time frame has been reached. Whereas in the first one, before the time has reached, a timeline has reached, something will be done. Whereas when we say J, which is after, it means that something will be done after that time frame. So it is used in a way that both of these are used in the similar way. That is, both of these are used after a time frame that has been defined. So a particular statement that has the usage of hun and J should always have a described time frame, meaning it could be longa lonyi gingun la, sengyin la, duntra jumangun la. Lonyi gingun la means before 2 years. Sengyin la means before tomorrow. Duntra jingun la means duntra jumengun la means before next week. Similarly, we use it. We use the preposition j in the similar way. It is nalas lip j, meaning that in before using the j, what we do is that we define a time frame or timeline, and then we use j to show that something will be done after that time frame. So the structure of both when and j statement are similar. It has a time that has been described, then the preposition, and then something that will happen before that time frame is reached in case of when, or something that will be done after the time frame has reached, timeline has reached in case of J. So one can, like I said, when it comes to checkup, which is the time, one can describe a time in any way they like. It shouldn't be a specific way saying like, oh, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. No, it could be something that also is a time that is described by a completion of an action. For example, one can say that kala seje, which means after having food. Or one could say, for example, lobjong chazan chaweje, which means after completing all the studies. Or then we can say, for example, we can say that jiga malep kong, jiga malep ngunla, which means before the spring comes. So therefore, particular time can be represented in many ways. And definitely, one can also use a definite time. For example, chuzo dangbungyun, chuzo in which we have a specific time that is before 1 o'clock or after 5 o'clock. So therefore, you can also use a term that is a designated term for a time, or you can describe a time by, explaining something, that an action that will be completed. So this is how you state the time. Okay. Now the third one is ne sung, which means this time onwards. Sanyi ne sung nga pyoge to keja shegyun. Sanyi ne sung nga pyoge to keja shegyun. So sanyi means tomorrow. So the time frame is tomorrow. The timeline is tomorrow. It says that tomorrow onwards, I will speak in Tibetan. So from this point onwards. And this, in this particular case, is right now, in this particular statement, is tomorrow. So as you define a time frame, that becomes the point from where something will begin. So unlike hun and j, in which something is either going to happen before something completes, or something that is going to happen after something is completed, sune is used when something happens at the very moment something is still happening. So it doesn't refer to either a completion of an it doesn't depend on something that either will be completed, and thus something should be done before it completes, or will be completed and something should be done right after something has been completed. Rather, the usage of nesung can be used if something has to be done once a particular time arrives. So sanyi nesung doesn't mean that once tomorrow is over, I shall do it. Or it doesn't mean that I shall do it before tomorrow arrives. It means that the moment tomorrow, I shall do this, the very moment tomorrow happens. So, nesung. It's a continuation of the, it's more like continuation rather than either preceding or either being preceding something or happening after something. And then, like I said, the time frame can be described in any way. We can say that, oh, lapta lobsen tiba ne song lobsen la ya wo chongking hin. Or we can say, doji den la song chu go zu ne song chir tungi me. So something like this. Okay, so the fourth one is temata, and this is an interesting preposition. It means exactly or immediately after. So it means that immediately after something. And te can be used with the temata, or sometimes te can also be replaced by a certain verb. So in that case, it would mean that immediately after something has been completed, immediately a certain action has been completed, something else will be done. So here we have tojidela lemata. So what I have done in this statement is that I have substituted te with tojidela lep. Tojidela lep means to reach Bodh Gaya. Tojidela lemata means immediately after reaching Bodh Gaya. Similarly, you can use any action here, any action word here. Kala samata. Nala jormata. Iki timata. Iki longmata. So any action word can come before ta. And then it will mean immediately after this action has been completed, action has been performed. So you can use any action word with this particular preposition ta. But if you just simply use temata, it means immediately after completion of that. In which te, what it does is that it functions as a substitute term or a pronoun which represents the action here. So you can say nala jomata, or you can, if you want to write more, you can say nala joa temata. Both of which are similar. It's the first one says immediately after reaching home. The other one says after reaching home, immediately after that. So you see the difference between the two. If I say, for example, let me write here. For example, if I say, yes, ge hi lo ti shema ha tu, and if I say ge hi lo ti chebe shema ha tu. Both of these are same. When we look at it, both of these are same. Both of these mean same. The first one means immediately after teacher starts teaching. And then the second one says after the teacher teaches, immediately after that. As the teacher teaches, immediately after that. But both of these means the moment right after teacher starts teaching. Because you see that currently I'm using the present tense. So it means that the action of teaching is still going. Definitely, if I would have said gege ki lokti chamata. This means chamatatu, which means the teaching has already been done, because we see the past tense. of the action. We see the past tense of the action. Gegenge lobti chema thatu or gegenge lobti chepe tema thatu. Both these words means immediately after the completion of the action. So therefore, one can definitely use tema thatu, or one can just substitute te with a particular action, and then one will understand that it means a moment or a time that is immediately after the action has been completed. So toje den la lema thatu or toje den lema thatu. That's right. Toje den la lema thatu nyangde chö den jel gyun. Nyangde chö den, which is the Mahabodhi stupa or the temple. So toje den la lema thatu nyangde chö den jel gyun. I will visit the Mahabodhi stupa or temple the moment I reach Bodh Gaya. Now the final one is kap, which means while, during. Khala sakap kecha chemiru. Khala sakap kecha chemiru, which means when one is eating, it is not proper to talk. So kap means while one is eating. So it's a continuation of the action of eating. So while one is eating, it is not proper to talk. So as you see, the first one, which is hun, is before, j is after, and the word from there or here on or on from here onwards is nesung. Hematak is immediately after, and kab is during or while. So before the end of the year, I plan on going to Bodh Gaya. I will do the homework after arriving home. I will speak in Tibetan from tomorrow onwards, or tomorrow onwards. Let's say tomorrow onwards. I will be visiting the Mahabodhi temple immediately after arriving Bodh Gaya. So the moment one arrives Bodh Gaya. So the action here, that is arriving at Bodh Gaya, and the moment after reaching Bodh Gaya, I will be visiting the Mahabodhi temple. It is not proper to talk while eating. So while for kap. So this is the Tugagitsik, means the word of time. Now this is nesam, such position or direction. So the words are dun la, gyabla, parla, hunla, jela. As you notice, hun and j can also be used for position. It says before that person, or before here, or in front, I'm before here. J means I'm after him. So using hun and j can also be used as place. So it's a preposition in Tibetan which is used both for time and place, and one can differentiate it with the association of the word. If it's a time related word, then it will be a word that is related to time. So it will be preposition that directs towards a time. If it's something related to the place, then it is a preposition related to a place. So jela, hamala, first, at first, juma or jula, later. Killa, at the center or at the core. Tala, at the edge. Usla, at the right. Yela, at the left. Yela, at the right. Harul, that side or there. Surul, this side or here. Nangla, in. Chila, out. Ting, on. Kuola. This is Ola. Ola, which means under. So you see that these are some of the preposition of time that we can use while conversing. And like I said, definitely there are other preposition of time as well as place. These are preposition of place, and then there are preposition of time, which may not be used quite often. So these are the ones which are used more often. So, for example, as we see in this picture, we see the objects and their position. So this is Nima. Let's see if I can. Yes, this is Nima, which means the sun. This is Kangba, the house. Chu, bird. Kupkya, chair. Kenu, dustbin. Juanxing, tree. So these are the directions that we see. We see that the sun is at the center or middle. So the chu, as you can see in the picture, ting. Trees, yu, kenu is beside or near. And kupkya is ye. Now, as we see, so we can see the first one. It says, Kangbe, pardon la, Junxing du. So we see that the Junxing or the tree is at the left side of the house. So we can say that Kangbe, it is at the left side. So we say Kangbe yuan la. Kangbe yuan la, Junxing du. So we can say Kangbe yuan la, Junxing du. Now the second one, Kangbe pardon la, Qiu du. So Kangbe ding la, Qiu du. As we see, Kangbe ding la, Qiu du. So we can understand the direction in this way, and we also talk. Normally we say that, oh, Kangbe ding la, Qiu du, which means that the bird is on the top of the house. Now kupkya. So does anyone want to try this? Does anyone want to try this? By looking at the image, does anyone want to try? Now it says Kangbe, pardon la, kupkya tu. So does anyone want to try this and give me an answer? So as we see that this is the Kangba or the house, and this is the kupkya, and the direction it is at is on the right side. So we will say that Kangbe ye la. Which means the chair is at the right side. Now kenu, which means the dustbin. So as we see, the dustbin is near. So the word for near is kam. You have also heard the word dam, which also means near, but we can also use the word kam. So we say kambe kamla kenu tu. And then namke ula. U means at the center. So namke ula nimatu, which means the sun is at the center of the sky. Namke ula. So you see that there is also usage of the particle la, or every time when we use this direction. So particle la is used as a conjunction, a sort of a word to, which relates between the object that is directed and the preposition. So Kangbe kamla kenudu, namke yula nimadu, Kangbe yuan la junxingdu, Kangbe den la qiudu, Kangbe ye la gugyadu. So this is how we use the preposition yuan, deng, ye, kam, yu. Then, for example, here we have the coffee shop, which is called the Tsikja Tsongha. Then we have 4 people, sitting, and we see that the coffee shop is in front of Tashi. So we say Dunla. Tamo is behind Tashi, so we say Gyabla. Tamo is between Tundrup and Tashi, so we say Parla. So we say that 这是pardon 吃家康度，这是对了吃家康度 which means the coffee hop or the cafe is in front of 这是。Hamu pardon tuntrupto. As we see that tuntrup is behind hamu, we will say hamu gabla. Hamu gabla tuntrupto. Now the third one, tuntrup the teshi hamu tuntrup the teshi hamotu, or which means hamo and tuntrup and teshi, and we see that hamo is between tuntrup and teshi, so we use the preposition par. So tuntrup the teshi parla hamotu. Sikja chongkang pardon motatu. As we see, the car is behind. So gyabla. Sikja chongha gyabla motatu. Pardon treshi tang pardon tuntrup retu. So hama treshi tang juma tuntrup retus. The first one is treshi and the last one is tuntrup. So we can say hama, which means the first, hama treshi tang juma tuntrup retu. So these are sentences which we can use to describe this particular situation. Here it says, which means the coffee shop is before or in front of Tashi. The second one is, which means Tundrup is behind Hamo. Tundrup dan Tashi parla Hamotu. It means between Tashi and Tundrup there is Hamo. Then Sikja Chongkang Gyabla Motratu, which means behind the coffee shop there is the car. Then finally, Hama Tashi Tang Jugma Tundrup Retu. First one is Tashi and the last one is Tundrup. Okay. Now here we have only two type of preposition, parul and surul. So as you can see, the first one, ri, pardon, tsiutu. Tsiu means a small lake or a pond. So we see that it is at the other side of the Khangri or the snow mountain. So we say Khangri or ri, parultu. Parultu, tsiutu. And this is at the front side of the snow mountain. So we say Khangri or ri, surultu or surulla trongseptu. Ri, surul la trongseptu. Meaning at this side or this side of the mountain, it is the village. That side of the mountain, it is the lake or the pond. So if you want to say that, oh, if you go beyond the mountain on that side, you will see a lake. You can say that rigi parula tsiutu or tsiu yure. Rigi tsurula trongsep shitu, trongsep shi yure. Trongsep ki dun la kengri shitu. Trongsep ki dun la kengri shitu. So, and then another thing, but this is something that we use. We say ta, which means at the foothill. So ta, we can say ta, which also means the foothill. So kengri tala trongseptu. Lasso. So let us look at the conversation between the two people to see the usage. So it says, Kamsa, which is one of the greetings that we have studied. I wish you good health. La, Kamsa. Who? I too wish you good health. Kasangan su trongsebtu chongba sarbashi leba hakosongwe. So this is questioning. When you say we, it is questioning. Usually you can also use the you can also use the interrogative particles. Kasangan su trongsebtu chongba sarbashi leba hakosongwe. Did you know that yesterday a new merchant has arrived at our village? La, hakoso. Kongi tsela tundure. Kongi nang nye nang ki ye cho so yure. Ye cho and ye are the same, which means ye means at the left. Ye cho means at the left side. Sorry, right, and ye cho means at the right side. So uh, it says his house is at the right to mine. His house is at the right of mine. Yes, I did. His name is Tundrup. His house is at the right to mine. Ye cho su yore. Lasso. Kong kang chong ki yore tam. Kong kang chong ki yore tam. Okay, what does he sell? La. Koni kencha chong ken redu. La. Koni kencha chong ken redu. Nyecher. Chom ki usu. Chong kang chenpo shi zubate. Kongi re. Nyecher. Chom ki usu. Chong kang chenpo shi zubate. Kongi re. La. Koni kencha chong ken redu. Nyecher. Chom ki usu. Chong kang chenpo shi zubate. Kongi re. Yes, he sells ornaments or jewelries. The big shop that was built recently at the center of the market belongs to him. So, yusu, which means center or at the middle. So it means both center and the middle. Many of you must already be aware or already know. Many of you already know the three provinces of Tibet. Yuzhang, which is the central part of the Tibet. So therefore, Yu means center. Ale laso. Chongkang hajan chenpotu. Kong kane redu. You can also say kong kane redu or kangne. Like I said, ka is more towards the spoken language. Kang is more towards the written language. Ale laso. Chongkang hajan chenpotu. Kong kane redu. Oh, okay. It is a very big shop. Where is he from? So you can ask for people's people's hometown by saying Kera khane ina or Kera khane ina or Kera payu khane de. Kera payu khane de. Or if someone is coming from the more rural area, you can say Kera chongpa khane de. Which means where is your village? So it depends. Lasso. Ale. Songha hajan chenpotu. Kong khane re tam. Or kong khane re tu. We can use both of these. Or kong khane re be. So khane re tam, khane re tu, khane re be. We can use all three of these. So when you're asking someone, for example, if you're asking someone where they are, you can say, kera khane inam. You can say, kera khane inam. Kera khane imbe. You know. So you can use all three of these. The last one more preferable if you're writing a story or something that is more written. The first and the second one can both be used in daily conversation. The second one is more preferable by the people, so it's used. The second one is used. So kenan kane, koran kane. So you can say kenan kane imbe. or Korang Khane Retukam or Rebe or Retam. La Kongi Payu ni Payu Retu. Gyapel ki Sansam Harul to Fonsep Yoba Te Ne Retu. La Kongi Payu ni Payul Retu. Gyapel is a combine of Gyakar and Pelyul, which means India and Nepal. So Gyapel. Gyapel Niki Sansam Parultu. Sansam means border. Sansam Parultu means at the other side of the border, at the other side of the border, or at the beyond this particular border, or at the other side of this border. So currently, assuming that one is living in India, so it is beyond one's border or at the other side of the border. So, yes, he is from Nepal. His village is at the other side of the India-Nepal border. So, a village that is just at the other side or beyond the border of India and Nepal. Lasso. Tayabuto. Peyul ne serngul soki kundra ta chöze yabu yöre. Lasso. Tayabuto. Peyul ne serngul soki kundra ta chöze yabu yöre. Chöze means the things that one use for prayer. For example, we have the Vajra or the we have the Vajra, or we also have we have other things for the prayer. So these are known as chöze. Okay, that is very good. There are good idols and prayer materials made of gold and silver from Nepal. So kundra means idol. So the two words, you see kuta. Ku means the body or the physical feature, the body. Da means similar. So kunda means something that is similar to its body, or like a idol. Lade sanyi kongi chongha duntu zego chene ninghung chongse ba yong la sultun pulku redu. Lade sanyi kongi chongha duntu zego chene ninghung chongse ba yong la sultun pulku redu. So duntu, which means in front. So yes, tomorrow there will be a feast for all of the villagers in front of his shop during the opening ceremony. Zego may not necessarily mean an opening fair ceremony. Here it has been understood in such a way because here the ceremony is for the opening of a shop. It is inferential that it's for the opening of the shop. So Zego by itself means a ceremony. It could be any ceremony. Lasso. Haja yaki. Yaki means it's very good. It's a very it's a more contemporary way of saying good. Like normally in English we say the word oh nice or oh cool. We say yaki. It's more like more contemporary way of saying good or nice. So lasso haja yaki. Halo hamale ta long hamale talo chongse yarge cheo. Lasso haja yaki ta long hamale talo chongse yarge cheo. Okay, very good. This year's development will be better than last year, or far better than last year. Lade. So you have halo hamale. Hama means earlier. In this particular usage, hama does not mean first, it means earlier. Halo means this year. Halo hamale, ta long hamale, or ta long hama means now earlier years. Le is comparing. Halo means this year. So now it will be far better than previous years or earlier years. Lare lare. Thalo ne song. Ngan su chong sep la. Chong pa mang to hong gyu rewa chenpo tu. Let me read this again. Lare lare. Thalo ne song. Ngan su chong sep la. Chong pa mang to hong gyu rewa chenpo tu. So thalo ne song means this year onward. So yes, this year onwards, our village will have many merchants. So one is aspiring, saying that, wishing that, oh, maybe this year there will be more merchants in comparison to last year. So talo nesung, from this year onward. Let them know, which means yes, that is true. Or you can say let them re, let them sung sung, let them she sung. All of this means yes, it's true. Okay, so we see some of the usage of these particles. Like I said, every time, the more you integrate it in your daily spoken or conversation, the more you get used to it and the more usage you will see of this particular word or preposition. So it solely depends on how much one is using it in their day-to-day life. But the meaning are as I have already provided. And I've already provided some examples where you can use these words. Okay, so new words. Gap, behind. So behind a person, behind a tree, behind. In time also. Dün, in front of something, in front of someone. Parul, that side there, other side. Churul, this side here. Nang, in. Chi, out. Shar, east. Po, south. Nup, west. And Chang, north. Okay, so the idioms. Okay, so before I go with the idioms, does anyone have any questions regarding these prepositions or any sort of questions regarding how this preposition is used? Do we have any questions regarding that? Or if anyone wants me to repeat the usage, that's all. Yes, as you can see that I have used la, and we all know that la is just the universal particle here. And yes, la is functioning as a particle of place here. And these can be used by those which can substitute. So we have previously we have talked about the 6 other particles: su, ra, ru, tu, na, and tu. And therefore, according to the suffix letter, you can substitute that. For example, dün instead of dün you can say dün tu. So we have the word dün you can say dün tu. Then you have gab la, you can use gab tu. So in this way, you can use these particles. That's all. So why sometimes, like I said, so you mean why sometimes do we use the la between the place and the place particles? Is used between the place and the place particles, and sometimes have I used any here? Can you provide me with an example that whether I have used it here? So as you can see that if it's a specific, if we're talking about things like words which so most of the times we will see that particles that are used between the place and the most of the time you'll see that we use the particles mainly if it is used with particles that have or the words that usually have the does not have the suffix. Most of the time we see that usage case in those cases. But like I said, many a times the usage of particles, whether you're going to use it or not, simply depends on how wordy a particular statement becomes. If a statement becomes too wordy, if the statement is too long, then we tend to avoid usage of extra particles. But if it is not that case, then you can use the particles, and like I said, many a times we see that the extra particles, whenever it comes, if there is an extra particles, it's always with the words which doesn't have a suffix letter. So that is the case. But when it has a suffix letter, and most of the time it's also a way to substitute for that missing suffix letter while pronouncing. But yes, other than that, there is no specific rule why a particular particle should be used if it's used sometimes or if it's not used sometimes. If you see that certain particles are used in some cases, specifically if those are particles which are non-significant particles, then those particles do not have particular rules that it could be used in this way or that way. It's just the preference of the person that is writing, and sometimes to avoid a lengthy statement. So did I clarify it? If not, please continue with the question, and if you can provide me examples, then I can clarify you more. Lasso, does anyone have questions? Any more questions regarding today's lesson? So, Lasso. Okay, so then I'll go to the idiom. So today we have two idioms. The first one is Gothar Pungzu. Gothar Pungzu. Gothar means when the body can pass through something. Pungzu means one is forcefully trying to push in the shoulder. So it means pushing the shoulder when the head goes through. So what does this mean? It means that this idiom is used to refer to an action by someone who is shameless and opportunistic. If it is used to refer to someone's action, it means that the person is taking advantage of a situation, or rather testing their luck, meaning that if one has already received a particular a sort of a generosity from someone, and then they're trying to get more from that opportunity, not in a good way, meaning being greedy, meaning that if they see someone who is generous and who doesn't, for example, someone who is generous and who is helping, who is benevolent, and then they know that, oh, they can get this from there. For example, let's say if someone was distributing a sort of wealth, and then one goes there and then gets something for themselves, and then they try to go again, seeing that there is an opportunity there. So it means when the head has passed through, meaning that when they know that there is an opportunity there, they're trying to pass through their shoulder, meaning that they're trying to get more. So this particular idiom has this meaning, and it is referred to an action done by someone which is very shameless, and which is something that is very greedy thing to do. So这是个空了若话康突切呗结算国他帮助给特动国他帮助给特动这是个就用作很多切制度这是个空了若话康 톡 제베 제소항 고탈 공주기 더동 저시기 교용조 함트로 제지도. Even after receiving the utmost help from Tashi, he is pushing the shoulder when head goes through by trying to snatch all Tashi's wealth. So as we see that one is trying to get more. The second one is Geto Dozi. Geto Dozi. Geto means when someone is old. Dozi means stepping on. So stepping when being old, meaning stepping on someone as they are being old. It doesn't mean directly when they're old. It means that when someone is weak or when someone is vulnerable, when someone is in a situation where they are vulnerable and weak, stepping on them. The idiom means to take chance of inflicting a loss upon someone who already is in a disadvantage or in a poor situation. It is used to refer to an action of beating down on someone who is already in a weak situation. So taking an opportunity and then beating down on someone who is already suffering or who is already in a disadvantaged position. 콩기 치링기 총 야고 마용 웨컵 고토 도지 예토 도지들 응을려와테 출제기 투츠테 용도 땅송 콩기 치링기 총 야고 마용 웨컵 고 예토 도지들 응을려와테 출제기 투츠테양 대 용도 땅송. When Tsiring's business was failing, like stepping when being old, he decreased the number of days for Tsiring to return him his money. So since Tsiring is not doing well in his business, the other person, like stepping on him when he's old, meaning that when he's weak, what they have done is that they have asked them to return the money before the due date. So, geto dozi. And so with these two idioms, we're done with today's lesson. So thank you very much for participating, and I hope you have benefited as much as I have enjoyed this lesson, teaching this lesson. Please revise everything. Ask me questions. Sometimes it will take time. Assignments, some of the assignments, if I have not checked right now, I will do them eventually. And I will send back the feedbacks. And if you have questions, please send them in, and then I will try to answer them as soon as possible. Sometimes it may take time. So I hope everyone have benefited from this lesson, and I'll see every one of you for the next conversation class. So I hope everyone have a good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. And Tashitele, and I will see you for the next class. So